Thank you for joining me. My name is Jane Miller, and I'm the President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. I am going to walk you through a PowerPoint for the City and the Conservancy's Park Listening Tour. The City and the Parks Conservancy are working together to develop an equitable approach to investing in the entire Pittsburgh Park system. And so we want to share with you information today and gather input from you about developing that investment strategy. Let me share with you this message from Mayor Bill Peduto.
For the past 20 years, the city has partnered with the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy in order to enhance one of our greatest gems, our parks. There are 165 parks in all of our neighborhoods, but for most of them, the infrastructure around them has begun to crumble. So we are putting out a call, asking all of our neighbors to look around at their parks within their own neighborhoods and have their voice be heard. What is it that we can do in order to be able to improve our parks? We have a goal that no matter where you live in the city of Pittsburgh, there will be a park within a 10-minute walk for every Pittsburgher. It's a priority of ours. We have gathered the data to be able to begin to put together a budget to understand how much it's going to cost to be able to restore these gems in our neighborhoods. But what we're asking is your help, your voice, your recognition of what it needs in your own neighborhood to make that park a special place. We're asking you to get involved through the Parks Conservancy and the City of Pittsburgh to make sure your voice is heard and to join us as we assure that all of our parks in all of our neighborhoods are the gems that they were created to be.
Parks are critical to making cities strong. And many of us, if we think about our experiences, about places we meet our friends, where we go for walks, where as kids we spent our time, I venture to believe that most people will think of parks and green spaces. This slide is a depiction of August Wilson Park, before and after the city and the Conservancy made major investments in this park. And as you can see, it is a stark difference, and it has really changed that neighborhood in terms of providing a safe and welcoming space for kids and families to spend time and restore their souls. And that's what we do. The city and the Parks Conservancy restore those spaces and provide good quality places for everyone to enjoy. The process that we are undertaking is sharing data that we have collected about our parks and the neighborhoods surrounding every park in Pittsburgh, and your input about the parks in the city of Pittsburgh. And between both the data and the public input that you give us, we will develop a transparent, equitable investment strategy for all Pittsburgh parks. Let me tell you a little bit about the partnership between the City of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. It is a strong partnership that has been in existence since 1996. The City of Pittsburgh has 6 departments that have responsibility for the park system in Pittsburgh. Public Works Department is responsible for maintaining and taking care of all of the parks and the assets within each park. The Parks and Recreation Department is responsible for operating the recreation centers and the active living centers around the city. The Planning Department is responsible for master planning of the park system. The Budget Office is responsible for developing the budget for the Parks Department and Public Works and Planning, as well as being responsible for managing the financial assets in the park system. The Public Safety Department provides park rangers and police for safety and security in all of our parks. And DOMI, the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, is responsible for taking care of the greenways, the streets and roads and bridges that go through every park. Funding is provided to the city through the general fund, which are the property tax revenues you pay for basic services in the city. The city also receives money from the Allegheny County Regional Asset District. The Regional Asset District revenue, however, can only be used for the regional parks. And in Pittsburgh, there are 5 regional parks: Highland Park, Riverview Park, Emerald View Park, Shenley Park, and Frick Park. The city also has various trust funds. They also get grants and sponsorships and collect fees for various services that help to make up the funding sources for the park system in Pittsburgh through the city. The Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy does capital projects, provides educational programming, public programs and events, and does restoration and ecology work across the park system. The Parks Conservancy revenue sources is grants and corporate gifts, individual donations, endowments, rental income, and fundraising events. Let me tell you a little bit about the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. Over our 22-year history, we have raised over $112 million. We are active in 22 work sites in the parks. We have completed 20 major capital projects. We have offered annually close to 300 free public programs across the park system. We've planted over 11,000 trees, and annually we educate over 5,000 youth through our programs. This is a map of the city of Pittsburgh, which depicts all of the 165 park and recreation sites across the city. At the bottom of this map are the types of park and recreation sites that make up the 165 sites across the city. You will note on this map there is a shaded green area on the south side of the city, which is Hayes Woods. This is property that is owned by the city, but is going through a review process to bring recommendations forward to the city council what to do with this site long term. The ultimate goal is that most, if not all, of this 600-acre site will become parkland in the future. The next series of slides will break down the city of Pittsburgh into all 9 council districts and depict the parks within each council district. On this slide, this is Council District 1, highlighted in white, with the parks within that district. This is Council District 2, highlighted in white, with the parks depicted within Council District 2. This is Council District 3, with the parks within Council District 3. This is Council District 4, with the parks within Council District 4. This is Council District 5, with the parks within Council District 5. This is Council District 6, with the parks located within Council District 6. This is Council District 7, with the parks located within Council District 7. This is Council District 8, with the parks located within Council District 8. And this is Council District 9, with the parks located within Council District 9. Let me tell you about our overall project's purpose. The City of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy share a long-term goal to bring all of the parks in all of the city's neighborhoods up to a high level of quality by developing a data-driven methodology to guide our equitable investments in projects and programs across the city. What do I mean by a high level of quality? It means 3 particular things. First, restoring our existing parks and open spaces that have fallen in disrepair. Second, modernizing the facilities that are within our parks that need updating to meet contemporary preferences, contemporary standards, and changing demographics of our city. And third, to maintain all assets in a timely manner by providing enough resources to prevent backlogs in the future. Now let me explain to you different levels of quality that I will be referring to later in this presentation. First, excellent. This is a good depiction of an excellent park. Highest quality of park experience, modern or like new equipment, a range of features and amenities, and well maintained throughout the park. Good. The park offers quality park experience. It provides the basic features or amenities that are in good condition, and it has up-to-date maintenance. Fair. The elements are in average or mixed condition. For example, we may have a new playground equipment, but we may have a worn lawn area. You'll see evidence of some deferred maintenance, and you'll see evidence of litter or vandalism. And this picture depicts sections of the park that are in poor condition and sections that are in good condition. Poor condition. In a park that is in poor condition, there is evidence of significant disrepair, lack of maintenance, evidence of litter or vandalism, overall poor quality and poor condition of the park overall. One of the things that the city and the Conservancy has done, they have looked at what other cities are doing across the country. There are 3 cities in particular who are taking major steps in rebuilding their park systems through an equitable approach. The City of New York, we looked at the work that they're doing through their Parks Initiative. We also looked at the City of Philadelphia that has a Rebuild Philadelphia program specifically focused on investments in their park system. And then we also looked at the City of Minneapolis that has developed an equity-based criteria system for all of its capital projects to address racial and economic equity. We also looked at plans across the city to see common themes that are across those plans. This slide depicts the plans that we have looked at and the themes across those plans. And you will notice that there are a number of common themes that are cut across all of those plans. Community, children, equity, water quality, air quality, and health are major themes that got cut across all of those plans. And those are also categories that cut across the work that we do in providing quality parks across the city. Now, let me tell you about our program vision and how we are striving to develop an equitable and transparent investment strategy. First, the section highlighted in green is looking at site need. What parks are in the poorest condition of the city, and what parks have the greatest need? So we needed to collect data about our parks, and let me share with you the data that we have collected about our parks in Pittsburgh. So the first thing that we did was we looked at what are all of the capital needs across the park system. And so what is a capital project? A capital project is a project that is at least $50,000 or greater and will have a lifespan of at least 5 years. So with that as the framework for a capital project, we worked with the city public works staff to look at every park and every park asset to understand what the needs were for having quality assets and quality parks across the city that will address neighborhood, community, and regional parks. And in doing that analysis, we have been able to identify that we have at least $125 million in capital needs across the entire park system. We also have 9 existing master plans for parks that are not regional parks. And in looking at those master plans, there is an $89 million capital backlog for parks across the city. We also have regional park master plans that has identified $188 million in capital needs. So if you add all 3 of those together, we have a $400 million capital backlog across our park system. Through the next series of slides, I will show this particular slide again, but they will highlight the capital needs within each district, within each of those categories. On this slide, for example, you will see Council District 1 capital needs within each of those 3 capital categories. This slide shows the total capital needs for the park system with Council District 2 specific capital needs pulled out. This slide shows the total capital needs for the park system with Council District 3's capital needs pulled out specifically. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the whole park system and pulls out the capital needs specifically for Council District 4. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the entire park system and pulls out the specific total capital needs for Council District 5. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the entire park system and pulls out the capital needs specifically for District 6. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the park system and pulls out the specific capital needs for District 7. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the entire park system and depicts the specific capital needs for District 8. This slide depicts the total capital needs for the park system and the specific capital needs for District 9. This slide will give you a summary of the capital needs across the entire park system, with the chart on the left breaking down the conditions based on parks that are in excellent, good, fair, and poor condition, relative to the depiction I gave you of those 4 categories for park conditions. You will notice that 56% of the parks are in fair or poor condition. The chart on the right identifies the type of investments that are needed across the park system, and you will notice that 42% of all of the parks need either a partial makeover or a complete transformation to bring them to good quality. We also looked at our available resources to take care of our parks. We know that in 2018, the City of Pittsburgh had $11.6 million dedicated to maintenance of our park system. We also know, by looking at national benchmarking data, that the city needs close to $25 million to take care of our park system. And as a result, we know that on an annual basis, we have close to a $13 million funding gap for park maintenance of our parks. So we now have the information we need about the site needs, the capital needs of each park, as well as the maintenance needs for the park system. Now we want to look at categories for an equity-based approach to make investments across the communities. And within each neighborhood, we will look at 4 major categories: people, the community, the environment, and health. And we will look at them relative to a 10-minute walk shed for every park across the city. I will explain the walk sheds later, but know that this data is collected based on the walk shed for every park across the city. So now I want to talk about the other elements for prioritizing sites for investments. So we now have the site need for capital and maintenance needs for the parks. Now we want to look at the community assets and an equity-based approach. So we will be looking at people, community, health, and environment elements that we will share with you as elements of developing an equitable approach for investments. Now let me explain to you walk sheds. What is a walk shed? The national standard is that within cities, every resident should live within a 10-minute walk of a park. And how do you determine that 10-minute walk? For most cities, it is very easy to develop a 10-minute walk shed because cities are flat. And so it's easy to just say, what's a 10-minute walk from that park? And then develop a radius around that park. That is not the case for Pittsburgh. And these are examples of 3 parks in Pittsburgh where the walk shed is very different from each other. And that is because of the topography here in Pittsburgh. So we have taken every park and developed a 10-minute walk shed, factoring in highways, major roads, steep inclines and stairs, and developed a 10-minute walk shed that fits for every park. And then all of the data sets that I just referred to have been collected based on that walk shed for every particular park. For our larger parks, such as our regional parks, our walk sheds are very different, and the reason being that they have multiple entry points. This is a depiction of Schenley Park and all of the entry points for Schenley Park. All of the different colored circles are the entrance points for Schenley Park. And you will also notice that the walk sheds in this park are identified in different colors. It was very important that we maintain the individuality of every neighborhood for the walk sheds for the larger parks. And the reason is that the demographics around the regional parks are often different from neighborhood to neighborhood. And so to ensure that we look at each neighborhood and the unique demographics of that neighborhood, we kept the walk shed data specific to every neighborhood for the larger parks. So now let's look at each of the elements and the data sets that make up each of these elements. The people category includes race and poverty, youth and senior population density for each walk shed. Now let's look at the community category, and the data sets within that are vacancy and violent crime. Now let's look at health. The data sets for health are asthma, diabetes, obesity, anxiety, and depression. And finally, the environment category, where we look at tree canopy and black carbon and sewer shed priorities in the city. And again, these categories are intended to address the two major environmental issues in Pittsburgh of air quality and stormwater management. So now this is the total picture of all of the data sets that we will be using to help prioritize the sites for investments within parks. Thank you for listening to and watching our PowerPoint. I hope it was informative. I encourage you to go to our website at pittsburghparks.org/listening tour to get more information. Our website lists all of the meetings and events that we will be attending. It also has a survey that we would love for you to fill out to share with us your input about what parks are important to you and what would you like to see when we make investments in our parks. Also, if you are part of a group that would like for us to come and do a presentation and have a discussion with you, please reach out to us. Thank you for caring about Pittsburgh Parks, and we look forward to hearing from you so that we can develop an investment strategy that meets the needs of all residents of Pittsburgh.